Welcome back, everybody, to the testing room. This week, Christian is bringing us a little article because, as you see, Alex is not here. We have the lovely gentleman Jake, our dungeon daddy. And since Alex is out of the podcast this week, we will not be doing the side quest. But since he is gone, we get to talk about fighting games. So, Christian, you had an article you wanted to bring up. I know that Summer of Game Fest will already have happened, so the answer to one of the questions we'll have on this article will already be answered. But if you want to go ahead and bring that up, we'll go ahead.
So I'm gonna tee this up. So, this idea, this topic came because of this article here, wherever Preston puts it on the screen. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna move around. And honestly, the guy's opinion in the article, and we've whatever is more or less
Dog
not
shit.
important. Yeah, it's not important at all. But it did bring something up because I was thinking the reason even this article got written is because, much to Preston's chagrin, this current Mortal Kombat that's out right now is dying a lot earlier than most people expected.
Yeah, no more seasons, no new characters or anything like that. They're pretty much moving on to whatever their next game is what they're doing.
Yeah, and we know this because the ultimate version of MK1 just got announced.
They do that for every Mortal Kombat, yeah.
Yes, whenever an ultimate version comes out, that is it. That is done.
It's like back in the day when we did the greatest hits or whatever, the Game of the Year collection to where you get all the DLC, everything with it. Like they're putting that out soon, so that means that you're getting no more extra stuff outside of patches for balances.
Yeah, and so the question started becoming then, well, fuck, man, this is early. Like MK1 is not that old. Like it is. Wasn't Preston, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it last year?
No, we got the DLC last year. It was 2 years ago.
Sorry, yes, 2 years ago. Okay. Still, that is not that is very short for a Mortal Kombat game.
I mean, it's the
very
same
short
year
for a
that
fighting
Street Fighter
game in general.
Out, right? So and then Street Fighter is going to have a season 3 coming soon.
Yes,
we're assuming.
And Street Fighter's not only still going but thriving. It is doing better than it's ever done.
Shit,
so
Strive came out before them, and they're still going.
And they still have characters coming out. Yeah, so that should tell you where they're at. Like it's in a bad spot.
Yeah.
And so
it's WB.
Obviously,
that's why it's a bad spot.
Yeah, but it also means that means NetherRealm is now doing whatever their next game is, and there was some people who had, everyone was like, hopefully they get it right on this next one, new Mortal Kombat, blah, blah, blah. And I actually am on the other side of this, and I'm with the sort of minority, I guess, of people, and this is why this article got created, which is, I think it's time for a new Injustice. Like,
sure.
I think it might be time for that. And it's like, but no one can sort of decide what that should look like or how they should do it or anything. Because while Injustice 1 and Injustice 2, I think are cool, they are obviously flawed for different reasons. Like each one. I think Injustice 1 is better than the sequel, in my opinion. Like I think Injustice 2.
Yeah, it depends how you feel about that. It's essentially, Injustice was kind of like, yes, they got to use the new IP, so that like obviously they got people coming in who wouldn't normally get a fighting game, getting it because it's DC characters, right?
Yeah.
But it was a testing ground for what they could do for later Mortal Kombat games. Like, hey, we want to try this part out. We're going to try that out. Well, we can try it out in Injustice and not piss off all the Mortal Kombat fans. And if we do it well and people kind of like it, we can bring it on over to the next Mortal Kombat game. So you saw
that whole series even got birthed because there was a little game called DC versus Mortal Kombat that blew up at a time where, again, and I'll bring this up and I can I'll tee us off here. There are some people that I saw were saying like, yo, we should get another Versus game. That's never going to fucking happen. I'm going to say this right now. There is no fucking way that we are going to get another game where we see Superman ripping people in half or Batman chopping off someone's head. Like the way
they didn't do that in DC versus
they did and they didn't, right? Like they didn't have blood, but people were murdered in that game.
They have their own type of combat. Someone gets hit by the Batmobile. Superman punches someone through a building and uses eye lasers.
And it's like, that dude's dead.
Yeah,
that dude's dead. Like, and it's because they had to have the Mortal Kombat sort of fatality system, but they were trying to make it work and do this way. I don't think that they're going to deal with that legal bullshit ever.
Probably
I think
not
it would
with
be
Superman
too much.
having a brand new
No, exactly. Yes, exactly. That's what I was saying. Is I think the DC universe, and you guys would know more than me, but I feel like it's in such a precarious place anyway that having a game that has to tiptoe around all those lines or what that would just be the worst. So I think an Injustice sequel is definitely the way that they're gonna go. But yeah, this more or less is just like, what do we, if we were going to, or any of us individually, we're going to, what would we want to see in an Injustice game? So let's talk about it. Jake. Yeah, why don't you start off, man? I know you got some thoughts on it.
Yeah. So as I was telling you guys over text, and anyone who listened to this week's prologue knows that I am not a fighting game guy, but I'm such a big DC guy that I absolutely played. I did play Mortal Kombat versus DC, and I was okay, but I thought Injustice 1 and 2 were a lot better than that.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's a hot take or not.
No,
no,
everyone's
no.
everyone's on your side with that one. Yeah,
I played a lot more of the first one than I did 2, but I thought it was a really solid fighting game. Like the story mode anyways. Once I got online, I played 3 matches in a row against Flashes, who were just running me around the world, punching me a bunch, and I didn't even get to move. And I'm like, well, I think, fuck this game. But story mode was super good. Aquaman was my favorite character, just to say that. I really liked his, I liked his special move where he stabbed you with the pitchfork, then held you up for a great white to swim by and grab you. I always thought that was super cool. So yeah, what I would want out of a 3, the main thing I think would be, so there are a bunch of Injustice comics out there. They're all written by Tom Taylor, and I'm not like the biggest Tom Taylor fan, but I think he did a good job on those books. And it's like, he did, I think it was like Injustice, then year 2, 3, 4, and 5, plus Ground Zero. So like you have a lot of material to grab from there. It's like the devs already have stories right there. Like they just need to take one of those. And I think the Injustice comics were so popular that, you would bring a lot of comic fans into that game for that reason. If you said, based on
following the story of
the best-selling comics or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Or, just have Tom Taylor write you a new story for your game. Because I'm sure
that was actually that was going to be one of the questions I had. That was something I had thought of, which was, in my idea, what I was thinking is, I think it would be dope if to bring in those kind of fans, like you were saying, is get a comic book writer to come in and do the story, right? Like do your story mode. That way you're calling me like, yo, we're taking this seriously. Like the story mode is going to be written by somebody who deeply understands these characters and understands the kind of story that somebody would want, right? Because it can't be as convoluted as a Mortal Kombat story. Like it needs to be, if you want it to, to pop off in a big way, I think having a comic book writer who comes in and does what would essentially end up being like a full run, right? But just doing it for that game, I think could be huge.
Yeah, and let's be honest, a comic book series based on a video game, that doesn't get more than one series, right? The fact that got to go for 6 years should tell you something about the quality of that comic book.
Story.
So absolutely bring him in to kind of oversee things, or at least be at the writer's table. And then I think to piggyback off of that, the other big thing that I would want, whenever Injustice, at least Injustice 1, I don't know about Injustice 2, but whenever they brought in DLC characters, it had nothing to do with story. It was just, you can use these characters in the story now. Give me something. Give me a chapter that explains why this DLC character is
sure.
Like put up a season, like let's say with like the other games, like you have a season of DLC, you get 4 characters in there. Have the story be about those characters, or maybe when the character drops, you have a little bit of story that goes along with it. Like Street Fighter does a really good job with that, because you have them inserted into the World Tour, which is like the big open world kind of area, and they have like their own like little side stories. but also you have like just the arcade story mode that you had like back in the day, to where like you're gonna do 5 or 12 matches, you're gonna get a little bit of story in between all those matches, and you get like a nice little animation at the end, or like a couple of photos at the end to kind of show a little bit of a story of how it melds with all the other stories going on in the game, and they could easily
Or
do that.
you know what would be kind of dope, and I just thought about this because I did not even think about that, but Jake, to your point, I think that would be a good idea. There was like, in certain games in the PS3 and Xbox 360 era, if a DLC would drop or whatever, they would sometimes go like, oh, also you're getting a visual comic that will drop in, and you can do that. I think that would be a kind of a dope way to do it, right? Like maybe you don't want to spend the money to get like a full CG and mocap and all that other shit, right? To try to figure out like how to get those characters in. Dude, do a visual, do a motion comic, put that in there with the character, so that puts them in, and or have that be part of the arcade mode, right? Like getting arcade mode story going. I don't think Mortal Kombat's ever done that, but or NetherRealm, I should say, has ever done that. But if you add something like that in, or add in just a comic that you get to read like in an extras menu or something that comes along with that DLC character, I think I totally agree. I think that would be great.
And I think if they did that, you could get people that were like maybe interested in comics that haven't read them before to be like, you know what, maybe I'll check out, the first volume of Injustice, and then they like that, and then bam, they're into that hobby now. We
release the trades during that time,
yeah, for sure. And I mean, even now they still put they have like those giant collections of here's all of Injustice, together. So I don't know. I guess the big thing I would want is just accessibility on both sides, gaming and comics, because I mean, you could add a lot more people to your fandom on both sides whenever you do something like that. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So those are the main things that I would want out of Injustice 3. And also just I don't like it when they get too kooky with the costume designs. Like they try to come up with something new, and it's weird. It's like, just how about some accurate ones, or at least give me the skin that's like,
give me an alternate
the proper
costume.
comic book, accurate
one.
So there you go. That's my answer.
Okay. Yeah, 2 went a little crazy with their costumes because they had like gear, so that would like change like the look of things that you would have as you went through. But I mean, I really enjoyed both Injustice 1 and 2. Like I said, I was a big Mortal Kombat fan for a while there, and Injustice was just, hey, let's put a DC skin on it, and let's give you it had a really good story, I thought. I was a Swamp Thing main in Injustice 2. I like to be my big beefy boy, tossing trees around and doing some slams. It was a lot of fun. But Black Manta was actually one of my favorite DLC characters. Like Black Manta had like some really cool design, and all of his like abilities were just super fucking cool. I think that if they do DLC, they should stick with like how Jake said. I think it was like a perfect way to do it. Like add a little bit of story to it. Like maybe even, I mean, Jake with like the World War V or whatever it was called, the DC versus vampires. Like you had
or Deceased.
Yeah, you
the
had
zombie
like
one.
You had like little small spin-off comics that were like, hey, here's like these cast of characters, what they were doing when all this kind of crazy shit was happening. You could just have that. Like they don't have to interact with the story as it happened, but you can just show like, hey, this is what they were doing on the other side of the world with like these 4 characters, and you can have a little story beats that go along with each release of those characters. Would be cool. I think if you're gonna do DLC, NetherRealm is known for like just grabbing like things out of left field, like, hey, there's the Terminator, or hey, here's this fucking weirdo from this horror movie. It's just, I think if they do it, they have to stick with comic book characters. Like, I really thought it was a cool idea when they brought in the Turtles in Injustice 2, to where it was like you bought a turtle, and then based off your gear, depending on which turtle you would play as. So you'd have the weapons for each one, you just change your weapon out, and you would either play as Michelangelo, Donatello, blah, 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 blah. I thought that was a really cool idea, and it'd be cool to see like maybe some like multiverse shit to where like, hey, why are the turtles in a DC universe kind of thing? I mean, you see it all the time with comic books, but
I mean, they can even draw from the Batman Ninja Turtle crossover comic or something 100%. Like that. So yeah.
Exactly. So I think that'd be cool. They did a really good job with how they did story. I think NetherRealm just does a bang up job when it comes to story mode in their fighting games, because it helps you get a little taste of like a bunch of the different characters that you go through, because this chapter is Johnny Cage or this chapter is going to be Superman, kind of a thing, to where you get a feel for all the characters. It's a great like learning tool when you go through all those characters. So Sure, what Jake said earlier, get that writer on board to do the rest of it. I'm curious to see how much James Gunn would put his hands in this now that he is the head creative of DC, as far as what they're doing with like their multiverse, their DCU, if you will, their movie universe. And he's like also tying this in with like TV shows that he's doing. And I'm sure he's going to be kind of taking a look at what they're planning on releasing for our DC video games. So obviously I don't think they would put like, you're not going to have Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner showing up in, the Injustice game. But is there going to be some weird thing to where like, hey, maybe we have a cameo, or maybe we have like a skin that looks like the DCU version of this. I'm just curious as to if he tries to get his hands too much into this, if they just don't call it Injustice 3 and they call it something else that is more tied to his universe. I wonder if they'd be willing to do that.
A part of me thinks that it would be little to none, just because, my goodness, does he have a lot to keep track of already?
He's a busy boy.
But who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, could happen.
So, oh no, if you had more, go ahead, Preston.
No, not really much more. Obviously, give me Swamp Thing, but because Swamp Thing is one of my favorite DC characters. But
And Constantine.
God damn it, if they don't give me fucking Constantine. And by the way, big shout out. I forgot to put it in the comments in the Two Worlds pod, but Casey totally fucking said Constantine last week, and it got me so fucking giggly. I'm like, he said it. He said it. I took a picture of the timestamp and everything. I just forgot to put the comment in. But I'm like,
I think he said it just for you.
I broke him. No one mentioned my name, so I'm like, he just said that naturally. Holy shit, did I fucking do it? Did I just like planted that little seed, and then sooner or later he's gonna want to say the name. He's just gonna say Constantine. But yeah, no, I think he would be perfect for that. I'm like, you just have magical kind of moves and stuff like that, like impulse shit out of like left field. Bring Zatanna in it as well. Like those, like bring more magic into like as far as what's that, because I can't think of. They had Fate. Yeah, they had Dr. Fate in 2. But other than that, it's all just like mostly superheroes, not really anything of like the magical realm.
Yeah.
You got Green Arrow, which is like, street version of like the superhero, like Daredevil, but nothing magical, which is kind of bummer.
Right. And like, I forget if it's either year 3 or 4 of Injustice, the comic, was all of DC's magic characters. Yeah. So it's like, they've already got it figured out.
Yeah, just figure out the moves. And if you give me John Constantine as like a fighting game character, I'm down. That's definitely main. I don't care how he plays. I will learn how to play him. That will be my main for sure.
Can I just say, if somebody pronounces his name like that in the game, I will make it my mission to delete this game from everybody's hard drive.
You'll make it your mission to get a mod that makes it to where.
Yeah, I will actually. Yeah, I would. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to come at this from a different way because obviously, like, I know fuck all about some of the actual comic book parts, but I do agree, and that was one of my ideas. Was like, yo, don't bring your normal Mortal Kombat writers into this. Just have somebody else come do it, because that's how you would get that people to like a nice crossover of people. The other thing I was going to say though is, and this is, Preston, you brought this up, and it was kind of what I thought was what ended up being the problem for Injustice and why it could never like really take off, even though it should. So I obviously, like, my person I always played was Superman because that's
your guy.
My favorite. Yeah, it's my dude.
Superman's cool.
Yeah. I also played a little Deathstroke too, because Deathstroke was cool, but that was about it.
Good. He was good.
He's good for a fighting game.
But so the DLC characters though, right? So I remember they added Lobo, they added Batgirl, General Zod, Martian Manhunter, Zatanna, but then they also added Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. And this was going to be one of the things I brought up.
Don't do it.
Also, to your point, do not make this anything like Mortal Kombat. Like, I want the third Injustice game to be its own thing. Like, I know
no cameos. Don't do cameos at all.
No,
I don't want the sidekick system. I don't want that. I want to play as one fucking character in a 1v1 game.
And I don't want the stupid ass gear system that Mortal Kombat always does.
That was kind of cool, but they weren't going to do that because they would have to monetize the fuck out of that, and that would piss people off. So they're not going to do that.
But they already did it. They already did it with in Injustice 2,
but
right?
It wasn't really monetized. It wasn't really like monetized as games are nowadays. So
yeah, I don't really care if it's monetized or not. I don't want the problem with Injustice, and I think and this is what I was going to get at, is that I think the reason that it could never get a foot in anything, like, and actually stay, was because everybody was like, well, it's just like, it's like bargain bin Mortal Kombat. Like it's just DC Mortal Kombat. That's really all it is. Like
don't want that comparison.
it doesn't have its own unique identity outside of the characters. And then even then they add Mortal Kombat characters to the game, and so it's like, well, what are we doing? Like it's just you're basically just like, let me and to your point, Preston, it was, oh, we'll just use this as a test bed for the next Mortal Kombat game. But what a shitty feeling as a fan of these characters in these games if it's just like, I'm getting used to mechanics and different things that aren't going to potentially make its way back to whatever this inevitable sequel might be, or in Injustice's case, it hasn't gotten one since 2, right? But I think that's because of those reasons. And I'm not saying that you don't need to make it feel like a NetherRealm game, right? Because NetherRealm's going to do that.
Yeah.
But my pushback against that a little bit would be like, Preston, you and I have put damn near 100, if not over, hours in Strive. We've put a lot of hours into Strive.
I'll tell you right now.
You can take one look at that Marvel footage, and it looks nothing like Strive.
No.
It is not going to play like...
It's fast and it has flair, it has style the way Strive does, but it does not look like Strive. Correct?
But it's not going to play like Strive. Like you know it's not going
4v4.
But you can tell, but when you...
Strive did have its own multi-character system, which was probably a testing bed for
I'm sure it
the Marvel game. Like, let's just see how we can do this and see how people feel about it. That's probably what it was.
But the but in the gameplay perspective of it, you can look at it and go, this isn't going to play like Strive. But you can tell that it's an ArcSys game just by looking at it, right? And that's what I'm saying here. I'm not saying don't lose your NetherRealm, style. Like, you can still make these characters look like, and you can still have it be like, oh, okay, cool, I can tell this is a NetherRealm game. It's going to have a block button, because NetherRealm games always have a fucking block button, instead of just holding back, like every other fighting game on the planet. But outside of that, but from, like, an actual mechanics perspective, just let it be unique. Like, come up with something new. Don't add in a bunch of Mortal Kombat shit and then smear a DC cover over it and be like, cool, you're good to go. Like, give people something unique to actually mess with, because that is how you would get this game to stick for a long time. And then if this game does well and you actually have like a thing that people like, cool, now we can spend time building on that, and now I don't need a new Mortal Kombat every fucking year and a half that ends up flopping and is the worst rated one that you've had in years, because it's just, you've done too much.
It's the Call of Duty of fighting games.
Yeah.
Yes, dude, yes. And
I like Mortal Kombat, to be fair. Like, it's that's not to say that there are horrible games. It's just when you do a game so many times so often, you have to keep reiterating and you have to keep adding to it and stuff like that. It got to a point to where there was so much bullshit in there that no one ever played in that game. Like, the whole little top-down map bullshit that they had in there, barely anyone played that shit. Most people, they played the story and they jumped into a couple matches online, or they were big into the competitive scene and jumped on matches online, period. But other than that, you didn't do a whole much. People dislike the cameo system. Like, they game it and there's only 2 characters you should be using for that cameo system because it's so broken and not great.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that they don't have enough time to actually work through that stuff, because it has to be out the door very quickly, because they don't have anything else going on right now. And now they're at a point where, dude, Evo Japan just happened. We're gonna get to, in July next month, we're gonna have Evo America happen. But Evo Japan, if it did, I think it was the lowest numbers ever recorded. But I think Mortal Kombat 1 didn't actually even get on Evo main stage for.
Yeah, I can't remember seeing the playthrough. I mean, there's people who actually have it recorded, but it wasn't like Evo, main stage,
right? And that's the thing, and that's crazy, because this game is only 2 years old, and a fighting game that is 2 years old is always on an Evo main stage.
How many people entered to play Strive?
And I'm actually now that I remember about it, yes, it was, they removed that game, and people are playing. They put Virtual Fighter 5, a game that is fucking.
They just announced the new one.
15 years old at this point, and they're announcing, the 6 got announced, but still, and that's crazy. Even as somebody who does not like I am not a fan of playing Mortal Kombat games, but I've always appreciated them. Like I think even though I give Preston a bunch of shit about a block button, but like they're important. I think that it's crazy that there's another game that it's not on Evo main stage. Like that's crazy. Like it's huge. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here is I think if you nail the mechanics perspective, even somebody like Jake, you admitted like you're not a huge fighting game person. Like you hop online, you get stomped out, you're like, fuck this, I don't want to do that anymore. But if they actually make the game fun to play, it might not change how people like a casual fan interacts with it online. However, if you see all of a sudden that there are pros in the FGC that are navigating towards this game, like especially NetherRealm players who are looking for a new thing because Mortal Kombat 1 is dead. Well, now all of a sudden, if you get a bunch of people, and Jake, to your point about getting fan crossover, if you get a bunch of people who are excited about this game, love the ways that it play, and it gets pro support, and then Evo happens, and now you're seeing this game, even if you can't execute it, like seeing it being played at a super high level, well, now it's huge because now more people being into it, they're like, oh shit, I didn't even know, like, and now a casual fighting game fan who might not is like, I didn't know that this new Injustice game was out. They see the story is written by an actual comic book writer, or to your point, even they might just lift it from those comic books and do something like that, which could be better, which could be good too. Well, now oh shit, I didn't know that this game was based off these books. I'll just go check out these books now. Like, and it, I think if you're going to have a game, especially based on a universe like DC that is in the precarious position that it's in, you need to do all of these things correctly to be able to like have a successful crossover. And I just think that's how you do it is you get the best of both sides of that medium, slam them together, and then have, you know, I think that's how you get the most success out of it. Because I would love to see like I would love for them to create a game that like does not have any, like I said, gets rid of all the Mortal Kombat stuff and then just like lets sort of the superhero sort of mechanics as far as DC is concerned like shine, like do something unique to those, right? Like
game. Yeah.
Like there was things in Injustice 1 that I love, right? Like even just the clash in the beginning, right? Like the two superheroes slam together, they chirp at each other and then move, but they're always unique chirps. Like it was always between those two characters, right? Some like stuff like that is cool, right? Like I even think some of the like if you had two like okay, so for example, in Street Fighter, like Preston and I have only managed to pull this off a couple times, but there's a move called it's DI, so it's short for a drive impact, which is like basically this giant counter move that if you get it off and hit it at the right time, it basically stuns the other character, so they're open for a few frames, and you can just do whatever you want. Like you can get your super off, you know, whatever you want, right? I think a cool idea here that you could do that would be unique to these is instead of like if two characters do a super, whichever level, right? 1, 2, however many bars that it takes, but if they do a super at the same time, have a like the same way that we always see like in comics or in superhero movies, like a giant clash move, right? Where it's like say Superman is like shooting his laser eyes and fucking, I don't know, whoever is like Cyborg also shoots a laser, whatever, right? But then if you do it at the right time, or if you do them both at the same time, there ends up being like a fucking like a button mash battle that goes like back and forth, and then whoever gets the most like wins and it takes the damage, right? Like something like that, like just, and that doesn't even have to be the actual mechanic, but you guys know what I'm getting at, like something that plays into the actual universe and makes it unique and all that other stuff. But I don't want to see, I don't want any mechanics from Mortal Kombat in whatever the next Injustice would be. I want it to be totally unique. And again, I'm not saying it can't look or feel like another Realm game. Like it can still have that same, yeah, because it's who it's made by. It can still have that same sort of movement style and have sort of the same, you know, the juggle combo system where it's like dot 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 dot, right? Like that kind of stuff. I'm fine with that. Like that's the games they make, and so you can do that. That's fine. But as far as like actual like how the game feels to play, like as far as what you're doing and how these two characters are going at it, I don't want anything from Mortal Kombat. Like even even though I think it worked in Injustice 1 and Injustice 2, to be fair, the interactables in the environment, right, where like you go and do the thing like where Mortal Kombat had the same thing, but like you'd run up and be like, oh, I can pull this trash can out and throw it at somebody or whatever, right? Like, I don't even want that stuff. Do something else. Like, figure out a way. Like, I honestly, what I think would be cool is a thing they took if they took this from a different fighting game, but Preston and Strive, you'll know, like those screen breaks, right? Where like if you're beating somebody's ass and it's up against the wall,
level transitions,
and
do it through comic panels.
Yes,
yeah,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. The same, so like Tekken even does this with like environment transitions, right? Where if you're getting your ass beat super hard, you can like slam them through the floor, and then it goes into a new version of the stage, right? Dude, Jake, you read my mind. It was exactly what I was thinking.
Sorry to steal your thunder. I just got really hyped for a second.
No, it's great. No, that's exactly what I was thinking was if you get, like, for a screen transition, have it bust out into a comic panel view and shove them into, like, whatever the next panel, and it changes to a different version of the stage. Like, do something that is unique to both mediums, but as far as, like, that marriage is concerned. That way, it pleases everybody, and then again, if you make it cool and you make it the right way, from a casual perspective, you'll have tons of new fans. But then if you get pro support and it comes in, and especially if you have something that stylish, like that idea of like comic panels pushing you through to the next stage, dude, imagine, and Preston, like, Jake, have you ever watched an Evo at all?
I'm familiar.
Okay. So, like 2 years ago, when Street Fighter 6 was first, it had dropped, the finals that night were like one of the craziest things that Press and I have ever watched. Like, it was, the crowd was unbelievably hype, and there was crazy shit. Yeah, like there's this, so yeah, there's like there's a character, one of the main characters in Street Fighter, his name's Luke, and his voice actor, there was a joke within the community about his super saying that he's going to take you down to Memphis, even though that's not what he says, but it says it. And his voice actor even went so far as to like record a clip of it on Twitter and like send himself doing it or whatever, right? So it was this whole thing. The finals ended up having, Evo Grand Finals had a guy who was playing Luke, and when he did his super and got his super off, the entire stadium did that bit and like had it all blow up, right? So you could have moments like that, though, where imagine a whole crowd like that. So some people might not even know, like, you know, might not have been aware about it, or like they're just casual there, or they're only there for one game, right? But if you're there and it's Evo main stage, Grand Finals day, and fucking Superman is beating the shit out of somebody and uppercuts them into the stratosphere, and then it sends them through a comic pen, dude, the pop-off would be insane.
Just to add on to that, because I think this would be cool. You do it through a comic panel. When it transitions, the costumes are comic accurate. They're in the comic now. Mm-hmm. And then the fight continues, but they're in... It's like they went from the environment into the comic, and now they're playing as their comic book selves. I think that would go absolutely insane.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that would be crazy. But that's really where it was at for me. Is I was just thinking, like, I just want something super unique that would be there, but because I think that, again, even though I'm not typically a huge fan of Mortal Kombat, I've always really appreciated those games. But I think NetherRealm is such an important developer for fighting games, and they're so important for this genre that, and they can do it. Like, they can make, like, again, even for a game that I didn't even really like, but like MK11, it was huge. That game lasted for years, and people loved it, and it was great. So it's like, you can do this, but if you come back, I think, especially like we see. And again, like we were talking about this earlier, Jake and I were just saying that Marvel 2 and 3 are some of the best games that we've ever played. And we came at that from two very different ways. Like, I was coming at it because I was a Capcom dork, and Jake was coming at it from a Marvel perspective. But that game plays so well, but also is so reverent to the characters and those things that anybody who played it, you come away from it being like, yeah, this is perfect. Like, this is just what I want to play all the time. And so I think the same thing could happen here, especially with as iconic of a cast that DC has, right? Like, you just gotta, approach it the right way. But I think that if you had I think it's important to have NetherRealm games like actually do something cool, but then also, I think the pop off that you would get from having these characters doing the cool shit that everybody knows that they can do and do that in the right way, I think it would bring so many more people to, like, again, to what Jake was saying in the beginning. I think it would bring so many people to both fandoms that it would just be a good thing all around.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably the last little bit I'd give on that is that, heaven forbid they have to bring the cameo system over. Here's what you do. You make it a sidekick system, and it's specific to the character you're playing. Now, with Mortal Kombat, it was, let's say you had Smoke. You would have Smoke in the background. He'd come in and do his hits, but like there was always one or two of those cameos that was just OP. And so, like, of course, everyone is using the same fucking cameo and do the same fucking move. It's very boring to watch, and it's not very fun to play. You have it to where if I'm playing a Superman, I get Crypto or Superboy. He's going to be my assist. Playing as Wonder Man, I got Nubia. Is that her name? What's the newer?
Oh yeah, Nubia.
Yeah, you have like or
you
Wonder
can just do
Girl
Wonder
or
Girl.
something like that. Yeah, just specific to that character, so that way you can be like, okay, well, their sidekick is broken, so we're just gonna have everyone use that one. Like, if you're gonna do that, do it very comic book like, to where it's like you're not gonna have, you know, some crazy Red Lantern team up with Superman to fight something. Which, I mean, I'm sure you could create your reasoning as to why that would happen. But like, as far as like your assist, like your sidekick would be like that character's sidekick. I think that's the only way you could.
I
probably
can tell
do
you
that
right
if
now, I would be like,
yeah,
he
excuse
do
me,
that.
that person wouldn't be with this person. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
actually, but
Yeah.
it was like, I agree with you. I don't think that would be a bad way to implement that. You guys would be
But I
able to
want
answer
that to
this
be
better.
gone. I want it to be like not
Right.
be there at all.
But like, not every character in DC has a sidekick, correct?
No, but you would have characters
but
from that
dude,
universe that you could bring in.
There are so many supporting characters for each of the
For
main
sure.
ones that would be in
just
this
choose one.
that it would totally be fine.
I just that was, I guess, my question was, would you end up missing out on, like, okay, so for instance, like in the first game, Doomsday was on there.
Yeah.
My guess is that Doomsday does not have a sidekick that rolls
No,
around
but there
with
are
him.
villains that he has teamed up with that could show up as his sidekick. Like, you do something dummy like, yeah, Superman. What's Jimmy Olsen was his sidekick character? He came in, did a little flash photography, and like stunned the guy for a second with like his camera flash
Yeah.
or something like that. Like that.
Yeah.
That would be a fun dumb cameo to have, or like a sidekick to have come in and do like a little bit extra. So
Yeah,
think
there
it
are
should be
enough
gone.
like minor Superman villains that you could just throw one in for
yeah,
the
that'd be
we
fun.
hate
Yeah.
But
Superman.
you can do that for any character. There's so many comic books that are written about every character to where like there's somebody in there, you can get a
Okay.
jobber from one of those comics to show up and it'd be funny at least. But I think it should be gone altogether. My last question is, since Summer Game Fest hasn't happened yet, I forgot to check to see if NetherRealm was on that list of developers coming out. So I'm just going to say, not Summer Games Fest, but the next NetherRealm game. Now, WB has said we're tightening down on IPs. We're not going to go crazy with them. We're going to stick to like our big named IPs. We're not going to go off the side with whatever small IPs we have anymore because they're hurting and they need to make big money and they need to not be able to make.
And
money.
honestly, Mortal Kombat is the only thing that makes them money. So
Yeah, unless they do DC stuff. I mean, obviously, that'll make them plenty of money too. So, are we getting a new Mortal Kombat? Are we getting a new DC fighting game? Or do you think that somehow they are able to do something else and we get something different? Like, out of those three, what do you think we're going to get? Do you think we're getting the Injustice game or / DC game? That's the next one? Or is it do you think that is like a obvious go-to what they're going to do? Do you think that they're going to come back to Mortal Kombat? Do you think they're going to do something different?
I don't think they will do something different because of the way that like Justice League versus Suicide Squad or whatever bombed, and
Yeah.
I just think they've had too many bombs lately that they're just going to stick to what they know will make them $1 billion.
The gets.
yeah, I agree. It's very frustrating because I would rather just WB crumble and NetherRealm.
Sell that
I
IP to
honestly,
other people.
I would love nothing more to, because WB just has a license for DC stuff, right? For DC video games, but I think like DC still technically like they're not owned by anybody
I don't
else,
think
right?
Warner Brothers owns DC. I think they
Somebody
just have the
does.
rights to that property.
No, somebody does.
Okay. Well, because what I was gonna say was, I'd love for NetherRealm and
Yeah,
all of
they
the
do.
other
Warner Brothers does.
Oh, they straight up
they own DC. Oh fuck. Okay, well, never mind. I was gonna say that I'd love for them just to crumble and it to like for it to go elsewhere, but it seems like that's just not a thing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think we'll end up getting Mortal Kombat 2, you know, because that's what they have to do now because they've put themselves in that position. And I think that it's gonna not be what people want, and it's just gonna piss people off, and that'll be that. I'm so desperately not wanting that to be the case. I hope that we get an Injustice 3, or you can call it something else, right? I don't even care if you call it Injustice.
Yeah.
But I hope that they do a DC fighting game, and I'd love for them to do the things that we talked about, because I think that would honestly be the thing that makes it great. And then, yeah, I would love that. I want it to just, God, I hope that that's what they do, because it would be so cool, especially if it's aiming for the next couple of years release. Like, I think it would be so good for comic books in general, or like I should say like the comic book, like the universes, like DC and Marvel, to have two very good games out there pushing that stuff and like getting people excited about those sort of things that might otherwise not be. I think would be great for both mediums to be able to do cool shit. So yeah, I hope so. But with WB being who they are, I'm sure they're just gonna look at NetherRealm and go get back into the Mortal Kombat mines and churn out another one.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. All right. Anybody else have anything they want to bring to the table on this topic before we head on out?
Nope.
All right.
I think we fixed it. I think that is. I think
we did.
We literally built the game for you.
We did our consulting on this game for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jake, we appreciate you coming in and filling the seat.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you can find him on Two Worlds Podcast. It's a sick comic book podcast he does with his buddy Casey. Find it wherever you get podcasts. And do you have the YouTube URL on top of your head? Just Two Worlds Pod?
Nope, I sure don't.
I got
yeah,
you.
just,
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm literally. I have it up, so it totally works.
I'll edit it. It's fine.
YouTube.com at Two Worlds Podcast 3763.
All right. Well, that's where you can find them. And then, yeah, check in on us next week as we will be doing another prologue and closing out the video game book club for Metal Gear Solid 2. And then we get to find out what Alex's next game is for the video game book club. So if you have any comments, questions, put them down below or send them to testingroompod@gmail.com. Other than that, we are out of here. Christian, you know what to do.
Hit it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or to check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. If watching is more your thing, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/@thetestingroom, or watch us live on twitch.tv/testingroomlive. To leave comments or ask questions, you can follow us on Instagram @testingroompod, leave a comment on YouTube, or send them in to testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.